Hi there, and welcome to another video tutorial. This one on why I think that the Red cameras are the best cameras currently on the market. Now, as you can see here, I'm the proud owner of a Red Helium, so that probably makes me just a little bit partial to the Red cameras. That being said, I did start on a Canon 5D Mark III, and that's a fine camera as well. I think that Red cameras basically got kind of a bad rap from the beginning, or they were a little bit controversial because they were the first camera company to really push the envelope and say that digital images could look just as good as film, and so that obviously ruffled some feathers in the film industry. Since then, you've had other camera companies, specifically ARRI, that have come up with some really great cameras as well. That being said, I still think that the Red cameras are the best cameras on the market. So let's get into it. So there are three tiers of filmmaking cameras: amateur, prosumer, and professional. Amateur is a great place to start, and professionals can still make amazing films with the most amateur of cameras, but for classification purposes, I would put GoPros and cheap video cameras as amateur. Next are prosumer cameras, the high-end DSLRs. The Blackmagic Ursa Mini and the Pocket Camera and the Sony JVC Canon are all prosumer. Finally, there's the professional level. What puts something on this level? A, who the target demographic is, and does the camera company cater specifically to them? Meaning, are the features and updates geared towards professionals making a living in the film business? Are the top dogs being consulted on a regular basis to refine and improve the cameras and the pipeline processing? B, dynamic range. This is critical for digital cameras and a big reason why cheap video looks like video. Dynamic range is the level of stops from the darkest of dark to the whitest of whites. A camera with a high dynamic range should be able to capture both shadows and extremely bright areas all in the same shot, whereas cameras with low dynamic range will have to expose for either the shadows or the bright areas, not both. Film has high dynamic range, which allows highlights and shadows to roll gently as opposed to clipping. Prosumer and amateur video has low dynamic range. Its look isn't as good as film. And C, 16-bit video depth. This is the secret ingredient. To explain video bit depth, let me bring up as an example that's easy to compare to vinyl records versus digital sound. Everyone always says vinyl sounds better than digital music. Why? Because vinyl is analog, meaning every little nuanced sound has a specific place on the waveform. Digital music, on the other hand, must classify each individual sound that's recorded to a very specific spot, either here or here. If there's a frequency that falls outside of either area, the frequency will be placed at one of the two closest points. Digital sounds less smooth unless the bit depth is extremely high, and video is the same. Cameras in the amateur and prosumer level have less than 16 video bit depth. Some have 12, some have 10, some have 8. The lower the number, the crunchier the image will become when you start to manipulate and try to enhance it. Why do these cameras have lower video bit depth? Because 16 video bit depth requires an enormous amount of storage, and when your market is amateur or prosumer, customers won't buy cameras that require spending more money on the storage media than the camera itself. Number two, because of their 16.5 plus stops of dynamic range and 16 video bit depth, Red footage gives more latitude in post-production than any other digital camera. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. So this is a clip from my latest short film, and you can see that there's very dark shadows and a very bright light source, a naked bulb. I'm going to go ahead and turn that Rec 709 image off. I'm going to turn on the initial grade, the LUT, the glow, the vignette, and the blacks, and you can see that this is basically a really nice image that has a lot of range from the darkest of darks to the lightest of lights. Number three, they're shooting at higher resolutions than any other camera. Why is this a good thing? First, it allows for more precision on VFX work. Green screen removal is more precise when the pixels you're removing are smaller and more plentiful. Second, it future-proofs projects, assuming as technology continues to advance that someday in the future we will be watching films off 8K TVs and projectors. And third, higher resolutions allow you incredible latitude in post-production by allowing you to punch in on shots without anyone noticing. For example, here's an example from a short film that I did, Variants, where we shot one single take. It was a wide shot here. Oh, it's not really a wide shot. It's more of a medium shot, but anyways, so this is a medium shot, medium 2 shot. And this is the only shot that we had of this conversation. And basically that's a problem because you can't control the pacing because there's no editing going on. It's one single shot. And I realized in post this was a big problem because I thought at the time the pacing was okay, but when I got into the editing bay, I realized that we had made a mistake and this was not good. So I was able to punch in on this this medium 2 shot because I was shooting 8K and I could punch in, and I still had resolution to be able to punch in, and it still looks really good. And that way when I punch in, I can actually re-edit it and cut the timing a little bit, and that actually saved the scene quite a bit. This last point is really important, and I can't overstress how helpful it is to be able to punch in on your shots. Number 4, RED cameras are more of a blank slate as compared to ARRI cameras that have a really nice baked-in look that prefers skin tone. The colorist who taught me said ARRI and RED are basically the same. The only difference is that ARRI is much more dialed in out of the box than RED footage is, which is why a lot of colorists prefer working with ARRI. Easier, right? But because RED footage is more of a blank slate, it allows a colorist in post-production to try many different unique looks as opposed to the cookie-cutter look that comes out of the box with ARRI footage. Because ARRI color science puts skin tone above all else, which again is a really good thing, ARRI footage can sometimes have issues with green screens as the greens can be a little off. Number 5, as mentioned in the intro, Red Digital Cinema was the first camera company to take on a heavily entrenched film industry when no one else was claiming to be as good as film. They are a very forward-thinking company, which is exactly what you want when you inevitably ask the critical question before committing to any camera. Whose product and learning pipeline do I want to commit to? Number 6, they're modular, meaning you don't have to buy all new components every time you want to upgrade. Number 7, they're way cheaper than ARRI. The Alexa Mini, for example, costs $36,000 and it shoots at 4K. The Red Helium at 8K costs $25,000. Of course, with cameras like these, you'll need to also spend more money on periphery equipment, but you can see that the Brains have an $11,000 price difference. Number 8, Red's proprietary compression is insane. The camera shoots on RedCode RAW, their file format for video. Now, RedCode RAW uses a wavelet codec to compress at whatever level you set it to. And this can be compressed at, say, 8:1, which is what the Lord of the Rings trilogy shot at, or compressed all the way up to 22:1. And I gotta say, the compression at 22:1 still looks incredible, but allows you to save a ton of space on your media cards if you use the heavier compression. Also, as Red points out, the raw footage captures to maximum image fidelity and post-production flexibility. It enables a workflow with non-destructive editing, and because the files are raw, the footage can host metadata inside. This is the only camera that has all of these capabilities. Number 9, Reds are built like tanks. Whether you're filming in a crazy environment or in a crazy situation, you can be sure your Red will be able to take a beating. I've used mine in 30-degree weather on the beach while it was raining and had no problems. I did use a rain cover though. Number 10, Red has both PL and EF mounts, so they're more versatile for the lenses you may already have. Pros use PL mounts, but those lenses can be insanely expensive. The most popular lens mount in the world today is the EF mount, the Canon mount. As of 2014, Canon has produced over 100 million EF mount lenses. Number 11, the community of Red owners and users support each other, are a smaller community and more professional group of users than your prosumer camera users. Because Red is a smaller company, it's able to give better support than a larger, faceless multi-conglomerate company. My experience with Red on numerous occasions has been great. Number 12, the cameras and chips are made by Red in Irvine, California, meaning they're not outsourcing any component parts to other companies. Much of the camera tech out there on the prosumer and amateur levels shares the same components and hardware. When you buy Red, you know that you're getting a unique proprietary camera. And speaking of camera tech, the Red camera chip received the highest sensor score of any camera chip in history from DxOMark. Go to DxOMark.com to see various lists on image quality from every major camera company out there. Finally, one last important point to keep in mind when it comes to creating incredible looking images. I bring this up because many people worship Red and ARRI cameras. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore my Red camera. But keep the following in mind. There are 3 important elements to having an amazing looking image. First, you need someone who knows lighting, camera setup, and is tech savvy with camera and lenses. This is you or your DP. Second, you need a great camera. Obviously, the best DP in the world would have a difficult time creating a great looking image on a cheap camcorder. Third, you need to know how to develop your footage in post. This is usually done by a colorist. This is where a lot of people hit a roadblock. I've seen many films that had a competent DP and were shot on a Red, but the film ended up looking like absolute garbage because it wasn't properly finished in post. Just to illustrate the third point that I wanted to make about how important it is to understand developing your footage in post, I'm going to show you color grading on my short film, Teddy. So here is the ungraded image of my actor Bert, and just out of the can, it doesn't look too good, obviously. Now, most people would add just like a Rec 709 look to the image, and that's okay, but there's a lot to be desired there. Here's the same image, but let me show you now when I'm adding my particular looks to the image and all these different nodes that have various effects. You can see this final image is much more cinematic, much more dramatic than this image right here, which is still okay, but could be a lot better. You really do need all 3 of these elements to consistently produce great looking films. A film missing one of these elements will not look its best and quite possibly could end up looking terrible. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you understand why I think Red digital cinema cameras are the best. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks!